Hello, welcome to Dungeon Dwellers Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. Today we're reviewing the movie Wolves. It came out 2013. It's directed by David Hayter, who, despite being famous for being the voice of Solid Snake, he's also an accomplished screenwriter. He wrote the X-Men movie. Sorry, I think he wrote only the first X-Men movie, um, Scorpion King, and he also wrote one of my favorite superhero movies, Watchmen, 2009. I know it's a controversial movie, but I don't know. I really liked it. Uh, Came out when I was a teenager, and like it was like one of the first movies like I bought on DVD that just came out because I would have I would have to wait till like the price would drop, but I got it like as soon as it got released. Um, Yeah, I really like this movie. It's not your typical werewolf movie where it's like the entire movie it's just like a guy gets mysteriously bitten by some wolf and he turns into a werewolf and he goes kill on a killing spree and gets killed by police or whatever. It's not that kind of werewolf movie. Like all that shit pretty much happens in the beginning of this movie where like Caden Richards, which is the name of the main character, played by Lucas Till here, who's like famous for that MacGyver TV show. He played Havoc in the X-Men First Class, and he was also in this superhero movie called Superheroes Must Die. It was directed by Jason Tross from the FP, which if you haven't seen the FP, it's one of my favorite comedy movies. It came out in like 2010. Spill.com gave it a great review. If you remember what Spill.com was, it's now double toasted, but whatever. Um, so like, basically what happens is Caden Richards is like about to graduate from high school. He's a quarterback. He's you get this feel like he's very popular in school. Has this hot girlfriend who's the free-breasted hooker from the Total Recall remake, which honestly, in my opinion, that movie was garbage. The original was much better, but like I don't know, it was okay. It was probably the last. That was probably the last movie where Colin Farrell played an action star. And now I, he looks like he lost his abs and everything. Yeah. So like yeah, the he's the quarterback of the football team. What happens is he's playing football, and I honestly thought because I hate these scenes where they'll have like the main character play a quarterback and then try to go for touchdowns. You see it a lot in football scenes in movies where they're not football movies. I honestly thought the director didn't know what football was, never played football or whatever. Like, turns out I listened to commentary. Apparently, he was on the football team, and this scene in the movie is something that happened to him in real life, where he got into a fight with another player and got expelled from school, which happens here. But what happens is like after three fucking plays where the quarterback is trying to fucking go for a touchdown, that's not what the quarterbacks do. Quarterbacks are supposed to throw the balls to the receivers, and the receivers are either supposed to get a touchdown or try to pass it to runners or whoever can get a touchdown, right? So after three plays of acting like a retard, he gets into a fight with another player, and that's where his first uh, instincts as a werewolf kick in. He beats the shit out of the guy, almost kills him, gets expelled from school. He meets up with his girlfriend that night. They try to have sex in the car, and he gets so excited that his werewolf traits start to show up, and he almost attacks his girlfriend. He scratches her on her back. That gets the cops called on him. He blacks out and wakes up. His family, his mom and dad are dead. His mom is played by Jennifer Hale, who's also another famous voice actor. She got David Hayter the role to play Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, check out if you're gonna pick up this movie, which I'm gonna get into spoilers. I would say the movie's a 7. I would say, despite it being kind of low budget and there's some like kind of goofy like backstory like scenes where it's like you're almost seeing like shit from like a comic book, from like a motion comic. Uh, yeah, I would say it's a good movie. It's worth checking out. So I'm gonna get into spoilers. Yeah. So like after, because he thinks he killed his parents, right? He goes on a run. He gets called the cannibal kid on the media, even though like if it's supposed to look like an animal attack, because like it totally looks like an animal attack, right? How why would people assume that he did it, right? But whatever. Like he's a werewolf. He figures out he's a werewolf. He goes on a run. Sometimes he gets into fights with bikers and shit and kills people. Which you would think after that he wouldn't have any revelation. Sorry, he wouldn't have a problem killing people in fights, especially when they're trying to kill him back later on in the movie. But no, he makes that mistake, despite the fact that he's outnumbered. But yeah, after being on the road for a while, he meets up with this other werewolf called Dirty Joe. He kind of looks like Lemmy from Motorhead. He has a brace and he's like blind in one eye. He tells him where to meet other werewolves and that his parents are probably from this town called Lupin Ridge. And he's like, my parents? I was born this way? He's like, yeah. That's the thing about this movie. It has this like Vampire the Masquerade, but for werewolves mythology, where there's pure bloods, where werewolves that turn into the Wolfman kind of aesthetic, not like the werewolves in like the underworld movies. But I would say, despite the fact they're going for that Wolfman look, the purebreds you do see in the movie do look cool, in my opinion. Especially Lucas Till's werewolf form, which I thought looks really cool. And you have the Finn Bloods, which are just people who've been bitten by werewolves, but they can't transform into full-on wolfmen. They just have the claws and the fangs and shit, which is obviously a budgetary excuse for why they don't have to apply practical effects to the whole wolf gang, because like the bad guy in this, who turns out to be the father of Caden Richards, is played by Jason Momoa. I think his name is Connor Slaughter in the movie. He's dressed like a biker. He has this cool like skull pipe in the movie, which he constantly smokes out of, which looks super cool. Yeah, he's the villain in the movie. He wants Caden comes to town. He makes friends. He falls in love with Angelina, who's another purebred who runs the bar with her drunk sister. There's like a Twin Peaks vibe to this movie. The major conflict in the movie is werewolves are going extinct. So like the bloodlines are kind of thinning out. So like Connor, which is played by Jason Momoa, is one of the last purebreds in town. He wants to reproduce with Angelina, who is also a purebred. So the conflict is Caden's also in love with Angelina and has to fight his father, who doesn't believe that this kid, despite obviously being a purebred and obviously kind of looks like his mom, because like his mom had blonde hair and blue eyes, doesn't believe this, and they still fight each other. The action scenes are pretty good, though there's lots of scenes of full-grown men like acting like werewolves running in the fucking woods, which is kind of goofy. But I don't know, I would say the action scenes are great. You have this final showdown at the farm, which is where like Caden's grandfather lives, played by Mchattie, who also has been he's a veteran Canadian actor. Like he's been in a bunch of movies. He played the old Night Owl in the Watchmen movie, which is where probably him and David Hayter met. Let me just take a pause for. Yeah, there's this cool like final battle at the farm, uh, where they plant explosives. The Stephen Mchattie's character has like a rifle. I should also mention that Stephen Mchattie is the only Canadian actor in the movie that's actually trying to do a Midwestern accent, where this place is, where this town is supposed to be in, right? And all the other Canadian actors, because this movie was shot in like Canada, right? So it's like very like by the numbers, where they will hire local actors to act in movies, which kind of kind of bothered me, because they don't even, not only are they not doing Midwestern accents, they're not even trying to do American accents. I can totally hear like their Canadian accents, despite the fact it's supposed to be Midwestern America, which is like, oh my god. That bothers the fuck out of me, but it's like a bunch of fucking movies do that, so I can't exactly criticize this movie for that, even though I just went on like a 2-minute rant. But yeah, I would say the movie, I like the movie a lot. It has that, because like David Hayter, who's also a comic book fan. Like, he named his daughter after, like, the Black Widow, apparently. And really wanted to write the screenplay for the Black Widow movie when it was first announced, but, like, obviously, he probably didn't. Yeah, he likes, like, I noticed that in a lot of his works, he incorporates not only, like, comic book writing into his works, but, like, also anime. Because he also wrote that, the script for the Lost Planet game, which is obviously a Japanese game, like put out by Capcom, but like it had a very anime like story, right? So like, I don't know, dude. I really like this movie. I could see why people could like get turned off by the low budgetness of this movie. Where though I thought like it's very ambitious movie when you think about it, because like you don't really get movies where it's like where they're going into, where you're seeing werewolves just act like normal people and live day-to-day lives, right? And I thought the whole uh, mythology and the whole thing with the werewolf bloodlines at the end of the movie, Stephen Mchattie gives Lucas Till character this family tree of werewolf bloodlines, and like where it has all the names of all the living werewolves to go out and find them if he ever needs help. Which, yeah, so which is kind of sequel baiting, but obviously we never got a sequel, which sucks. Yeah, I would say it's worth the 7 out of 10. Especially there's like a twist ending that kind of came out of nowhere. I wouldn't say that it came out of nowhere. It kind of was set up where Dirty Joe was the villain all along. He set up the kid to kill his father because the father crippled him and exiled him from the town. Which, again, that gives it that Greek tragedy feel to it. It's like, this movie has layers for like a low budget like werewolf movie, which is what you don't normally get. So, I don't know. I think it's worth at least renting. All right, peace.